So, he was admired, liked, respected, and yet somebody murdered him. Why? Well, there's never been any shortage of suggestions about what the motive might have been. First up, a disgruntled Pakistan fan, ashamed that his team had been humiliated. Effigies of the team's captain, Insufficient, had been burnt in the streets of Pakistan after the defeat by furious supporters.
Some are very fanatical, and you wonder how that could affect people. But Bob used to say, well, let them come and fight me.
It's possible that somebody was so upset that they took it out on Bob Woolmer, that there was some form of a perverse reprisal because of the result of their position with him being ousted from World Cup cricket.
Was it perhaps a random murder, a robbery gone wrong?
First and foremost, we have a hotel which has got a huge amount of security. And then, of course, if a motivation to murder was also to steal, then of course there was nothing stolen.
Jamaica is a pretty rough country. You look at the paper today, 4 people killed yesterday on the front page. Police have told us that actually there were 9 murders across the country yesterday. But the difference between Bob Woolmer's murder and most of these is that Jamaican killers tend to use knives or guns. The fact that Bob Woolmer was strangled has led the police here to conclude that his killer came from outside Jamaica.
There have even been reports that Woolmer wasn't murdered at all, that he got drunk on whiskey and died after falling in the bathroom.
There's absolutely no truth in that at all. There is some indication that he had a drink in the room. I know that his blood alcohol level was just above the limit for driving, and for Bob Woolmer that would not be a problem.
So was he about to expose evidence of match-fixing or corruption involving his team? Well, Pakistan losing to both the West Indies and Ireland certainly fueled suspicion, but where was the evidence? Bob Woolmer had been unwittingly connected with match corruption before. While coaching South Africa in the late 1990s, the team became embroiled in the biggest match-fixing scandal ever, resulting in captain Hansie Cronje being banned for life.
Words cannot begin to describe the shame, humiliation.
He admitted being in the pay of an Indian bookmaker.
What it did to cricket and cricketers like myself and other people, I mean, in a way, it shamed cricket.
Before Bob Woolmer joined them, the Pakistan team were involved in a match-fixing scandal of their own, resulting in lifetime bans for 2 players and a fine for Insufficient.
I was amazed, quite frankly, because I just didn't believe it was happening. I couldn't think the Pakistanis would throw a game. You know, I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe anyone in cricket would ever throw anything, quite frankly.
Well, match-fixing isn't just about the end result of throwing a game. These days, you can place spot bets on almost any eventuality. How many runs a bowler will concede, how many runs a batsman will score, more or less than 30, let's say, when precisely he'll get out. Now, if the player and the bookmaker collude to fix these outcomes, then the bookie's guaranteed an income and the player will get a lucrative reward. And all this is very, very hard to prove. But it has been proved. Justice Malik Khayyam headed an investigation into cricket corruption 7 years ago. He concluded it was rife not only in Pakistan, but across the world.
In Pakistan, I found definite evidence showing that, yes, some of the match had been fixed by some of the players. And I also said that this appears to be all over, like India, South Africa, Sri Lanka, maybe England and Australia also.
I think cricket itself has acknowledged that it has a problem, and the ICC have an anti-corruption unit, which is headed by Lord Condon.
The former Met Police Chief Lord Condon submitted a report to the sport's governing body, saying corruption was endemic within a small but significant number of players in the sport.
We've left it with him and one of our liaison officers to work with him to come back with any information that may indicate that the motive for Bob's death was related to match fixing.
Gambling is big business in India and Pakistan, especially on the region's favourite sport, cricket. And where there are big profits at stake, there's also the potential for corruption. Undercover reporter Aniruddha Bahal first blew the lid on match fixing in 1997. His regular corruption exposés ever since have meant he now has an armed guard 24/7.
When you look at match fixing, people think that match fixing is about influencing results. I mean, today it means 100 different things. If I was in some team and somebody approached me saying, you just have to get out before you're scoring 20 runs. I mean, that's it. I mean, then maybe he could make a pile of money just doing that.
In Lahore, Pakistan's police were keen to show us their specialist illegal gambling unit in action.
Gambling is a curse for our society. It gives a wrong impression, therefore it should be stamped out. This is an Islamic country. This should not be here. It is a cancer.
They recently arrested 1,100 people in raids on 235 illegal bookies. This man is a local rickshaw driver. He now faces the death penalty for the murder of a bookie after an illegal bet that went bad.
There's
a lot of unemployment and poverty here. People think that there's easy money to be made from gambling, but it just leads to violence.
The raids make headlines but little impact. Such is the scale of illegal gambling here. Small-time bookies proliferate in back alleys across the subcontinent, each answering to bigger, powerful mafia bookmakers. This one is operating out of Mumbai and taking bets from all over India. He believes that there are still international players in the pocket of the mafia bookies.
Sometimes they make the run, sometimes they give the maiden overs. So the suspicions are coming. Why a batsman with a capacity of playing is just playing a table tennis type of cricket? It raises the doubt. It's not confirmed. The man has got the capacity to hit, he's not hitting.
As a coach, Bob Woolmer was not afraid to speak out against corruption.
It's certainly something I would not associate with if I knew anything about it. And if I did know something about it, I would certainly let the world know straight away.
So could his outspoken approach have been a reason for his murder?
Bob Woolmer's death is at least shrouded in mystery. So nobody knows what happened. But there are strong indications that somehow or the other this has to do with match fixing. Otherwise, there is no rational explanation for his murder.
But there's no evidence either. Another theory is the possibility that tensions between the coach and his squad could have played a part.
He got on very well with the boys. They had a generally good relationship, and obviously the ones who spoke English he found easier to communicate with.
I'm the captain, and all the time he support me, he's backed me, and I think is our good friend and is good relationship with the Bob.
The captain, he really thought that Bob's advice was always very useful. Obviously, there could have been, disagreements on strategy or plan, but he always looked up to Bob for advice.
But even the most harmonious of relationships can fracture when a team loses catastrophically in a World Cup. After the Ireland match, there were rumours of a huge row on the bus back to the hotel.
I don't see much communication with the coach and the players.
Bertram Carr was the Pakistan team's bus driver. What did the players do during the journey from Sabina Park to the Pegasus Hotel? What were they doing on the bus?
They just sit and most of them on their phone.
No voices raised?
No voice raised.
No argument on the bus. I don't know what took place in the changing room or in the lounge, but on the bus, they were very, very quiet.
So there was no post-match row on the bus, just a team devastated by defeat.
Bob was disappointed. He was very, very much disappointed. I mean, he was totally, I felt he was a broken man.
Bob Woolmer recorded his most candid feelings in an email to his wife Jill, the very last contact he would have with her.
Yeah, he did mention that he was feeling very down and depressed at the time because it was just so frustrating for him that one of the minnow sides could do what they'd done. It was inconceivable.
Another issue affecting team morale has been gaining ground for some time. Pakistan's media manager at the World Cup, PJ Mir, shared Bob's concerns about whether the team's priority was their religion or their sport.
I mean, Bob had his reservations that, you know, that the boys, instead of really focusing themselves onto the religious aspect, they really ought to be focusing more on cricket. He wasn't particularly pleased that when players were going out to say their prayers in the middle of a game and a substitute was coming in, and then again, you know, this continued. He was totally against it.
I'm Muslim, Alhamdulillah, and is in my religion is 5-time prayer is every day. Bob is never upset about this.
The captain, Inzamam al-Haq, and other prominent members of the Pakistani squad had become members of the Sunni fundamentalist group Tablighi Jamaat. The group listened to prayer and sermons while travelling with the rest of the squad on the team bus.
A CD was being played, which was a Tablighi CD, and Bob was sitting behind me. He said, look, why don't you tell them to stop it? And if they want to listen to it, they can listen to it on their iPods or on their, you know, those personal devices. And he said he felt that he shouldn't really be subjected to all this, and I agreed with Bob.
He read the Quran. He wanted to understand the Pakistan personality, but he gave up the last 3 years of his life to go and work in Pakistan. And one could imagine that if he had felt the team weren't performing as they should have for these strange reasons, I think anyone in that frustration might have said something which in retrospect might have been taken incorrectly.
After the team were knocked out, PJ Mir returned to Pakistan and publicly blamed their poor performance on some of the team being more interested in praying than playing. He claims his comments resulted in a fatwa, forcing him to flee the country.
Let's put it this way, if Bob had said what I had said, yes, I think there would have been fatwa on him as well. There's no question of that. But again...
Has he said what you said?
Well, I said, you know, that the players were more focused on religion rather than on cricket.
And he too has said that?
Well, he has said that, yes.
What we know is that Bob Woolmer was rendered helpless by some kind of toxin and that he was then smothered and strangled. All this just hours after his side had been sent crashing out of the World Cup by minnows. Now, talk of match-fixing, international gambling and fatwas may sound far-fetched, but the circumstances around this crime were extraordinary. So whatever the motive was, it's likely to have been unique.
I am not going to say I'm absolutely confident that next week we would have caught the murderer of Bob Woolmer. I'm confident that we're doing all that we possibly can, but treating this as a professional, methodical, systematic investigation using all of the best techniques that are available in the world. We'll do the best that we can.
What would you like to see happen with this inquiry?
Well, just that we find out who, what and when and why. That would put my mind at rest.
So the World Cup may be over, but the mystery of Bob Woolmer's death goes on. That was Adam Parsons reporting for Panorama. Coming up later this week, we've an hour-long Panorama special, Midwives Undercover. That's here on BBC One on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Next Monday, we're back with White Fright, a topic some are too scared to discuss publicly. Why Muslim Asians and whites won't mix. What's driving the two apart?